Hello, I'm Dr. Eileen Garcia, and I'm an assistant professor at the School of Education, Counseling, and Human Development at South Dakota State University in Brookings, South Dakota. Adolescence is defined as the period of transition from childhood to adulthood. Some children enter this period early, while some enter it late. But commonly, the ages between 12 to 19 is considered the adolescent stage. The period of adolescence is often described as a period of storm and stress because it is often associated with increased parent-child conflict, moodiness, and risk-taking behaviors. But it's important to highlight that adolescence is a period of immense growth and successes as well, especially when adolescents or teenagers are given the assistance and resources they need. In this video, our goal is to better understand how teenagers think and behave so we can better support them. We'll talk about three main topics: the adolescent's brain development and decision-making skills, identity development, and family transitions when children are in the adolescent stage. Contrary to previous belief, the adolescent brain continues to change and develop beyond childhood. In particular, scientists have found that the corpus callosum, the structure that connects the left and right hemispheres of the brain, thickens in adolescence. This is connected to teenagers' improved ability to think and process information. Research involving brain scans also showed that the prefrontal cortex also continues to mature, and this is the brain area in charge of cognitive tasks such as reasoning, decision-making, and self-control. However, brain maturation is not complete until early adulthood. This incomplete or ongoing maturation is connected to teenagers' social-emotional development. Researchers believe that on one hand, teenagers are capable of feeling very strong emotions, such as feelings of excitement, anger, contempt, or shame. On the other hand, their still developing brain is not exactly equipped yet to control these emotions. A good metaphor scientists use to describe the adolescent brain is that of driving a car. The brain has the ability to step on the gas, to feel those strong emotions, but it's not quite capable yet to step on the brakes to slow down or control feelings. This brings me to teenagers' decision-making skills and risk-taking tendencies. Overall, when teens are in a calm state, they are capable of making sound and logical decisions. However, decision-making does not happen in a vacuum, and it is usually influenced by our emotions. When we experience positive emotions, we tend to underestimate the negative consequences of our behavior. When we are feeling negative emotions, we tend to focus more on the short term and forget about the many possibilities of the future. This holds true for teenagers and adults. The difference, however, is that teenagers are more likely to feel stronger emotions, as I mentioned earlier. Let's take 18-year-old Bailey, for example. Bailey recently received an A in her exam, and she couldn't be happier about it. Her friends got good grades too, and they wanted to celebrate by drinking alcohol. In the spirit of celebrating their academic achievement, which is truly worth celebrating, they underestimate the negative consequences of underage drinking. In a similar vein, 16-year-old Connor, who found out that his girlfriend was cheating on him, so he's feeling resentful and betrayed, which are both strong and negative emotions, may feel like he won't be able to get over his girlfriend at all and that he may never be in a relationship again. As parents and caregivers, how can we support teenagers then so that they are more capable of making less risky decisions? Here are some research-based steps. Step 1. Talk with your teenager and identify and clearly define the problem. For a simple illustration, let's say that 15-year-old Eric is experiencing pressure from his peers to try vaping. He likes his friends, but each time he's with them, they keep on pressing him to try vaping. Eric is conflicted. Step 2. List the possible options related to the problem. What are Eric's options in this scenario? First option, he could stop hanging out with them and peer pressure would stop. Second option, he'd give in to the pressure, try to vape, and stay in the circle. Third option, keep hanging out with friends but don't give in to the peer pressure. The third step is to evaluate the consequences for each option. For option 1, the possible consequence would be that peer pressure would stop and he would lose his friends. For option 2, consequence would be that he'd be living a less healthy lifestyle and his parents would likely get mad at him. For option 3, a consequence might be the emotional toll of peer pressure. For step 4, evaluate the desirability of each consequence. Let's go back to option 1. How desirable is it to not deal with peer pressure? Very desirable. How desirable is it to lose friends? Not desirable. Now, for step 5, assess the likelihood of each consequence happening. Again, let's look at the consequences of option 1. Eric will stop hanging out with friends. What is the likelihood that peer pressure would stop if Eric stops hanging out with them? We'd say it's highly likely. After all, out of sight, out of mind. So Eric would feel good not having to deal with unnecessary peer pressure. What is the likelihood that Eric would lose his friends? We can say it's likely that he'll lose this set of friends. However, it doesn't necessarily mean that he'll lose all his friends or that he won't be able to make new ones. Step 6. Combine everything, choose an option, and make a plan accordingly. Now, why do teenagers need their parents to walk them through these steps? Because of their limited life experiences, teenagers may not have enough knowledge to think about what their options are. They may think that they are stuck or that they don't have any other choice but to give in to peer pressure to feel good about themselves. Teenagers may also not be fully aware of the consequences of each option. Having been teenagers ourselves, parents may have more and richer life experiences and are more likely to have realistic insights onto what teenagers are going through, as they may have also experienced this in the past. Teenagers can benefit greatly if they hear tangible examples from their parents rather than abstract ones. Research has also shown that individuals must be exposed to the risk multiple times before they perceive it as dangerous. Again, with teenagers' limited experience, they may not be able to accurately assess the risk or danger of the options they're considering. That said, it's important to highlight that teenagers benefit the most from scaffolding and not from strict monitoring and micromanaging. Remember, they strive to be more independent and they enjoy the autonomy or the ability to make choices for themselves. What is scaffolding then? Scaffolding is providing assistance only as needed. It is providing support, especially when the task is new, just like facing dilemmas and making difficult decisions. Then, as you see that the teenager is more able to do things by themselves, you adjust and wean your assistance. As your teenager makes a decision and act on the plan, as a last step, it's important to evaluate the problem and the solution you assisted your teenager to come up with. Recall what the process was like for your teen. Think about how a similar problem may be prevented in the future. If the plan turns out to be a success, acknowledge your teenager and make them feel good about their carefully thought-out decision-making. If the plan didn't turn out to be what your teen would have wanted, avoid saying, "I told you so," or emphasizing the mistake, as this can foster feelings of shame, hostility, and not belonging. Instead, make it an opportunity for learning and carefully review the options and the consequences again. It may seem hard, and you might think, who has the time to do this and go through all the steps before making a decision? But when teens get into the habit of considering options and weighing consequences instead of making impulsive decisions, this will benefit them greatly, even onto adulthood. Let's do a quick review. What are the steps to decision-making with your teenagers? 1. Identify and clearly define the problem. 2. List the possible options related to the problem. 3. Evaluate the consequences for each option. 4. Evaluate the desirability of each consequence. 5. Assess the likelihood of each consequence happening. 6. Combine everything, choose an option, and make a plan accordingly. Now we move on to the topic of identity development. Adolescence is the time when youth explore and try to establish their identity. What does that mean? Self-identity refers to how a person sees himself or herself, and it includes the different aspects of ourselves, such as our skills and interests, the work or career we want to pursue, who to date, our beliefs, our sexual identity, and so on and so forth. According to research, identity development does not happen abruptly or in a simple direction. Instead, it is a complex process, and teenagers make decisions every day that influence their identity. How can we then support teenagers in their effort to establish their identity? It is recommended that parents provide their teenage children with options and a wide range of experiences before they decide on what they like, rather than forcing on them what their parents like. Remember, even if teenagers are more independent and self-reliant compared to when they were younger, parents remain to be key influences in their identity development. In fact, research has shown that teens who have a good and stable relationship with their parents are more able to successfully commit or achieve their identity. This brings me to our next topic. Now that we have established that it's important for parents to provide scaffolding for their teenage children when it comes to decision-making and identity development, let's now dig deeper into the broader role of parents in helping make sure that teenagers adjust well during this period of transition within themselves and within the family. We'll divide this section into two: parental monitoring and managing parent-child conflict. Parental monitoring involves three main things: communicating clear expectations with teenagers, what parents do to keep track of teens, how parents respond when teens break communicated rules. When parents monitor their children, in simple ways such as knowing their friends and who they are with, asking them what time they'll be home or what they'll do after school, or setting and enforcing rules on attending parties, they not only get to know their teenage children more, but they also provide structure for their teens that help prevent harmful consequences, such as drinking and driving, engaging in unprotected sex, or using drugs. Indeed, research has shown that when parents monitor their children, communicate clear expectations, and check in regularly with teens to see if they are meeting these expectations, these reduce teenagers' risks for making poor decisions, physical injury, unwanted pregnancy, drug, cigarette, and alcohol use. So how can parents provide effective monitoring? You may have heard of parenting styles, and parenting styles have two components: demandingness and responsiveness. Demandingness involves the degree of expectations, rule setting, and monitoring. Basically, demandingness refers to how you want your teens to behave. Responsiveness refers to sensitivity to your teenager's needs and showing warmth and acceptance. Here's something very important to note. To effectively monitor your children, you need the right balance of both demandingness and responsiveness. Unrealistically high demands coupled with low responsiveness will not be good for teen self-esteem. A combination of low or no demands and high responsiveness, which is a characteristic of permissive or indulgent parenting, can lead to poor academic performance and more impulsive and aggressive behaviors. You might be wondering, how do parents know the right balance then? The key is communication. Know their strengths and shortcomings. Ask their friends and other adults who know them to give you more realistic insights about your teens. With that input, and considering your teenager's capacity and personality, set realistic goals and expectations with your teenager instead of for your teenager. Here's an example. Ray is a smart and hardworking student, and her mom has provided her with the resources and support she needs to succeed in school. Unfortunately, Ray got a low score in her last exam, and she felt bad because she knew she did her best. Instead of getting angry at Ray, her mom acknowledged her efforts, gave her reminders to pay more attention in class, and suggested to lessen her screen time so she can study more. How do you think Ray would feel about her mom's reaction? By communicating with Ray and acknowledging her efforts and making suggestions on how to do better on her next exam, her mom showed the appropriate level of responsiveness. She didn't guilt her or put excessive pressure on her. With this, Ray knows that she has her mom's support despite her low exam. And this feeling of being supported can help Ray stay on track of her goals and feel good about herself. Recall that at the beginning of this video, we mentioned how parent-child conflicts tend to increase in adolescence. However, note that contrary to what we see in movies and drama shows, research has shown that parent-teen conflicts usually involve minor everyday things, such as doing household chores, coming home on time, dressing appropriately, and excessive cell phone use. It's good to understand that mismatched expectations can cause these conflicts. For instance, parents expect their teenagers to always listen to them and do what they want, just like when their teens were younger. But know that it's inherent or normal for teenagers to push for more autonomy at this stage. They want to gain more control over their lives, and perhaps teenagers think that their parents no longer have a say on what they'd like to wear or how long they want to talk on the phone. What can parents do then? Let's listen to some strategies that parenting experts recommend. Acknowledge that your teen has their own interests and skills, and that you can't simply force on them what you'd like them to do or pursue. Again, get to know your teens, notice what they're interested in, and show that you're interested in what they like. Listen to your teen and be open to their point of view. Give them a time to talk and make sure that communication is two-way. Although some rules are non-negotiable, try to be flexible with minor issues. For example, which school to attend may be best decided by the parents, but teens can have the major say on what extracurriculars to pursue. It's important that teens trust their parents so they'd feel comfortable sharing their feelings. Avoid doing things that may break their trust, such as snooping on their phones, eavesdropping on their conversation, and talking to their friends behind their back. Explain why you are not approving or agreeing with your teen, and communicate clearly that always your main concern is their safety and well-being. Model positive behavior during conflict management. Be calm and understanding. Be honest, but avoid saying hurtful things. When your teen sees that you are treating them with respect, they are likely to model that behavior and do the same. A note before we close. Please don't take conflicts as 100% bad, and know that disagreements are normal. Although they can be a nuisance to a stable parent-child relationship, experience of conflicts can provide teenagers with opportunity to handle stressful situations, learn to negotiate, and practice reconciling differences. Again, two-way communication is very important. As parents to teens, it's essential that we do more listening and communicating instead of correcting and punishing. We hope you found this overview of adolescent development helpful, and you've learned some strategies to effectively respond to your teens' needs and support their development. If you have any questions, please feel free to send an email to eileen.garcia@sdstate.edu. Thank you.